Hey, Scribe, Sarah here. Welcome back to the Right Podcast. I'm so glad you're here because if you've hit play, that tells me one thing: you're a writer. Maybe you're dreaming about writing your first book. Maybe you're knee deep in chapter 5. Or maybe you've got a stack of published novels to your name. Wherever you are on the journey, this is your space. This show was made just for you, my friend. So let's dive in and talk all things writing. Have you ever written something straight from the heart, only to tuck it away because the timing didn't feel right? Well, today's guest is living proof that sometimes the stories we think the world isn't ready for just need a little time to find their perfect moment. Amy Hutton first wrote Ghosted, a swoony, spine tingling paranormal romance, years ago, at a time when the genre wasn't exactly hot in publishing circles. Editors told her the market wasn't there. Paranormal was over. So, like many of us do, she set the manuscript aside and poured her energy into writing and publishing two other novels. But here's the beautiful twist: Ghosted never stopped calling to her. And the stars have aligned. Not only did Amy pull the manuscript back out, but this time the timing was just right. This book has been picked up and it's finally getting the love it deserves. In this episode, Amy and I talk all about the inspiration behind Ghosted, her journey with the book, and how trusting divine timing and your own instincts as a writer can lead to the most magical outcomes. Let's dive in. Welcome to the podcast, Amy Hutton. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
No worries at all. So, I am super excited to hear more about you and your amazing books. And I would really love for you to tell us your story. And I'd love to learn more about you because I hear that you're a former TV producer.
Yeah, that's right. My career prior to writing was in television, and I've kind of worked pretty much everywhere. But I was working as what is a promo producer at quite a senior level, so I was sort of a team manager as well as being an upper level creative, and I was working in network TV, and so that's the things that go tomorrow night on The Voice. Will the chairs turn? I would make those. Movies and things like that, the little 30-second ads, 60-second ads for the incoming program. Yeah, and so I was doing that for quite a long time, and I spent a while in cable TV, and then I was in network TV, and it was very, very, very full on. And obviously, as part of as doing that TV producing job, I was doing a lot of writing with that, writing scripts of different durations, and that was really my favorite, absolute favorite part of the job. And writing has always been something that I've done on and off, on and off. And I was writing short stories and all sorts of different things, but I really wanted to write something longer. And I started working on a story while I was working sort of in the final stages of working in TV full time. And I just found that with the job that I had, which was obviously creative during the day as well, and it's quite high pressure working in network TV. It's very reactive, and you never really know what you're going to walk into any given day. I found that I would go really well for a while, and then I'd just get overwhelmed by work, and my writing would be pushed to the side. And it got to the point where I was like, I don't want to push it to the side. That's what I really want to do, and I can't see how I can do the two things together. So thankfully, where I work, they were really supportive, and I actually left full time, and they were quite supportive enough to keep me contract, so I could pop in and out when I wanted to. Basically, if they had some work and I was happy to do it, I'd pop in. So, which was really, really great. But it gave me the opportunity then to really focus on learning craft and doing some courses and writing this book, and that's kind of how I ended up getting into it. So that was really the beginning of my author journey, was, you know, quitting my full-time job and kind of just going, okay, let's put all the eggs in the basket and see how we go.
But it's so incredible that you were in the position where you could do that. I know so many people watching and listening are just like, oh, if I could just quit my day job, if I had enough money, just go and sit on the beach and write that book. Of course, we can't all do that. So
No,
yeah,
and I know that, and I know that I'm particularly blessed to be able to do that. I will also say I sold my unit
yeah,
just to give myself some money. I had a unit, well, the bank, owned most of it, but
absolutely.
but to give me a little bit of a nest egg so that I didn't have to, I could work, pick and choose when I worked around what I was working on with my book. So it kind of worked really well like that, and so I was able to still keep my hand in TV, but really focus on working on the book. And like I have so much admiration for people who juggle full-time jobs and full-time families and somehow still manage to get a book out there. I'm just like baffled by it. It's just obviously outside of what I can do, and I really needed to. I just felt like if I don't do it now, but I'm never gonna do it. It felt like the moment, and I just felt like I needed to put everything into it, to try and make a go of it. I didn't actually have a plan if I didn't make a go of it. I was kind of just, everybody's like, "Oh, did you give yourself, like, 5 years?" I was like, "Oh, no, I never even thought about that." I was just like, "I'm gonna do
I love your enthusiasm, though. That's great.
it."
So, was that Sit, Stay, Love that you're writing?
No, the first book I wrote is actually the book that's coming out next, which
Oh,
is Ghosted. I know, it's very bizarre, and, everybody always says to you, that first manuscript, you put it in a drawer and you remember it's in that drawer, and, it's always, the book you never really get to do much with. I'm sure that's not true with everybody, but, um it was what I wanted to write, and so I wrote it, and I spent, the next sort of, I wrote it, I think I finished the first draft in about a year, and I spent the next year kind of actually making it into a better book because it was my first one, so I was learning obviously a lot along the way, and I kept working and working on it. I started to pitch it, because I felt like I had it beaten, and people were like, "Oh, I really love this story," and it had won an award. It won like the Romance Writers of America Light Paranormal Award, and it won a couple of other little things. And I was like, okay, so maybe it's got legs. So I started to pitch it, but at that point in time, paranormal was just not a thing. It was a couple of years ago, and a few years ago, and paranormal just wasn't really. It just wasn't popping at the time. So I was getting great feedback and people saying, we really liked your pitch, and this sounds like a great idea. We're just not doing this genre at that time. And while I was working on another story in the paranormal universe, Sit Stay Love, like, dropped into my head one day when I was out walking my dog. And so I came home and sort of started working on that, and then I'd put it aside and go back to my other story until it was at the point where Sit Stay Love was just like ding 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 in my head the whole time. And I went, well, I'm gonna have to write that now. And that's how that book came about. So that was my second,
yeah,
um, full-length manuscript, but my first published book.
absolutely. And you were traditionally published?
Traditionally published, so I was lucky enough to have an opportunity to pitch at the Romance Writers of Australia conference in Fremantle in 2022,
Yeah.
and I pitched to Simon and Schuster, and they picked me up. So they picked me up for a one book deal for Sit Stay Love, and then before Sit Stay Love came out, they picked me up for another two books because they wanted a follow up to that, and then the third book turned out to be Ghosted.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Are there any authors that have really inspired your writing that you just can't get enough of?
Oh, there's lots of authors I absolutely love. I think one book that really probably got me going, I really need to do this, was Minnie Dark's Star-Crossed. I don't know if you've read that, but it's an Aussie romance and it's set in regional Victoria. And I remember reading it and just going, oh, just the words, everything about it just leapt out of the page. And I think it was probably her book and that just absolute love of how she wrote that galvanized my decision to take this leap of faith and give it a go myself. So, and
Yeah.
I don't know that she's necessarily influenced my writing, but I would definitely say that just reading that book from her made me go, no, I really want to do that. This is, I
Mm.
want to be able to do what that book just for some reason really spoke to me at that moment. And I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's beautiful. So your first two books are very much set in Australia,
Yeah.
rom-com, beautiful banter, and that just comes naturally to you. Are you a really funny person in real life?
I find the banter really fun to write. I don't know if I'm a naturally funny person. Maybe, I don't know. People might go, no, she thinks she is, but I don't really know. But the banter certainly is something. Dialogue, I think, is something that comes quite naturally to me. And I think that comes from my television background
Mm.
because I have spent years listening to TV shows, movies, to pick out those perfect pieces of dialogue that tell a story in 30 seconds. So,
Yes.
like, or 60 seconds, if I was making a promo for a movie, apart from the scripting that I would write around it, you would be looking for the perfect sound off take, the perfect grab from whichever actor that just kind of nailed that moment in the movie and built like a little 30-second story to entice people to go and watch it. So I think I just had I mean, everybody watches a lot of movies and TV, but I have watched a lot of movies and TV and with a different kind of brain,
Yeah,
So
this is all
I
research, so you're
yeah, yeah, it was so I was so attuned to dialogue that
yeah.
I think that is probably where, my my love of writing dialogue and banter came from. And I think it helped me, be able to write that just because I had worked with it so much.
Mm. No, that's amazing. This episode is proudly sponsored by the Sunshine Coast Fiction Festival, one of the most exciting new events on the Australian literary calendar, and I'm thrilled to say I'm hosting it. Join myself and over 80 other authors and vendors for a 3-day festival of creative inspiration, community, and conversations at Venue 114 in Bocarina, just minutes from the beach and surrounded by the vibrant writing culture of the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. Whether you're a brand new writer dreaming up your first novel or an established author wanting to connect and learn and celebrate this wild creative life, we've got something for you. And bring all your bookish and reader friends too. The weekend is devoted to bookish fun and your chance to meet and chat with authors of all fiction genres, including romance, science fiction, fantasy, crime, and children's. There'll be workshops, panel discussions, author Q&As, and plenty of time to mingle and network and get inspired. You'll hear from some of the biggest names in fiction, including Stephanie Holmes, who's a USA Today best-selling author of dark, delicious fantasy. A.K. Mulford, a Sunshine Coast local who writes fantasy novels, rom-coms, and she's a BookTok star with a heart for magical stories. Rachel Johns is one of Australia's favourite authors of women's fiction and rural romance. Cadence Snow, she's beloved in the indie romance scene for her gripping and emotional stories. And T.L. Swan, queen of spicy international bestsellers with legions of devoted fans. And Candice Fox, award winning crime writer and screenwriter whose thrillers you cannot put down. And of course, I'll be there too, not just as your host, but with my own table at the signing, ready to chat, sign books, and cheer you on wherever you are in your writing journey. This is your chance to meet some of your favourite authors, connect with other passionate readers and writers, and soak up an atmosphere of creative energy that will stay with you long after the day ends. Tickets are already selling fast, and this is a 3-day event. So if you're thinking about coming, don't wait. The Sunshine Coast Fiction Festival is proudly sponsored by Serenade Publishing, the Queensland Writers Centre, the Sunshine Coast Libraries, and Baventi. Head to sunshinecoastfictionfestival.com.au to check out the full program and book your ticket now. I can't wait to see you there. So, with your background producing, have you ever thought about, changing your novel into a script?
Of course. Well, I don't know. I'd love somebody else to do that, I think.